Hello and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy episode 474 for the week of November 10th, 2020. Boy, has it been a long time since we last recorded. It feels like years. But it's only been 1 week. That's okay. Or 2 weeks, I mean. That's all right. We skipped 1 week. It was an important week to skip. It was a very good choice to skip Tuesday night as well. So that's all I'll say about that. And follow at Ryan Higgins Ryan for all your hot political takes. My name is Ryan Higgins. Who's here with me this week?
Brock Sager.
Kevin.
And Kevin.
Sure, just keep
And
going.
Charlie.
Doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter anymore.
One.
Coming from the inside of a submarine, Toby. That's what the internet says. It sounds like you and Bryce, when you were talking to each other, it sounded like you were both talking inside a submarine.
It's called a cave.
Back with us, because we are here to talk about not one, not two, but three Jokers from the band The Neighborhood, of course, the one, the only Brandon Freed. Thank you, Brandon.
Thanks for having me again, boys. Always a pleasure.
Hello.
Brandon, you are our DC Jeff Johns mega superstar fan. We have got to talk about three Jokers.
Love it.
Glad you could join us for this.
It.
So we're going to talk about the final issue, what's going on. So this is going to be full spoilers, so you've been warned. Also, there's within that conversation about three Jokers, there's going to be some conversation about rumors of post-metal, post-future state DC, some rumors that came in over the weekend from Bleeding Cool. I generally don't like to talk about them too much, but people asked specifically about this topic, and it actually goes well with three Joker conversation.
You try to get away from Bleeding Cool, but our fans just keep bringing us back.
Well, we've got a few things to say about that. We'll start with the three Jokers, but we're also going to talk about that as well. So I'm assuming if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have read three Jokers or you do not care at this point. So hopefully we're not going to spoil too many people. But if you want to skip to the end, we'll have our regular Q&A stuff. So you can always do that if you don't want to. So three Jokers. Toby, I want you to start with this real quick. Well, we should have Brandon start really because he's our guest. But
Toby.
literally.
Toby.
No, I bow down to thy superstar, Brandon. You are the guest of honor, so I will absolutely lay away for the mighty Brandon.
All right, so check it out.
Yeah, I need to hear, what is your take of this final issue?
Okay, first time reading the third issue. You know, I finished it, was like, okay, I kind of see what you did there. Not sure if I liked it. Then actually before the podcast, did a reread of issue 3, and I actually liked it a lot more the second time around.
I basically did the same. I did the same thing, except I think the shock of the ending works a little better the second time because now I sort of knew what I was looking for. Maybe does that make sense?
Going in, I mean, spoilers. Going into it, knowing that I'm not going to get the answer to like the mystery of the three Jokers, and just kind of seeing how Jeff Johns like let the story unfold and the storytelling decisions that he decided to take, and like kind of appreciating him, like, you know, for the second time around made me like it more. But the first time, you know, like, spoiler alert, like not really getting an actual answer to like the mystery of the three Jokers was kind of disappointing, but also like kind of expected. Like, of course, there's not going to be some like crazy conspiracy. There's been like three Jokers like in all of DC continuity, or like I almost like subconsciously knew that I wasn't going to get an answer, but I was also kind of like hoping to be surprised of like maybe there was going to be some crazy like, you know, like reveal at the end. But you know, it's comics.
As I'm counting the pages down, I'm like, there's not that many pages left. Where does this go? And I think that's why I think it worked a little bit better the second time. So Toby, you literally just finished reading it.
Yeah, like literally to the minute. That's why I was like, I'll be there right there in a couple of minutes because I was literally on like last 2 pages. I guess I'm with Brandon the first time around. I'm just kind of like, well, we're gonna go in more details, but I feel like maybe this was like an easy way out. Like expected, well, for a premium format book that was touted to be, you know, the event. with crazy excellent art being these nice little hardstock cover things and everything. I almost wish this was a normal storyline in a Batman book, because I felt like it was more a Joe Chill story than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish they kept the Three Joker title name for something crazier, but maybe this is not over and this is still going to continue. But that's kind of where I am with this. I guess I expect a lot more. I did want that crazy reveal, and I feel like this was just like a Joker's master plan, and another Joker is just like, well, we're gonna get there eventually, but another Joker is like, well, F him. So I don't know.
I have some theories, but I want to go through everyone's kind of initial take before we get into this a little bit more.
And also as a big Nightwing Barbara shipper, I have some major problems with the last two issues. You stay in your lane there, Jason. Dude, what the hell is this? Is Dick dead in this one? So and then I'm like, okay, but not if he's live. I'm like, dude, stay in your lane, buddy.
Kevin, how about you? I know you tend not to be taken by these big events.
I didn't do a reread. So I think maybe I two comments and then I'll pass the baton off to Charlie or Brock. I thought I was pretty clear on the ending. You guys are making me second guess myself by saying that the ending is not clear and is mysterious and maybe confusing. I thought I understood exactly what was going on. Maybe I didn't. My bigger problem than the ending was, so this is 3 double-sized issues, right? Roughly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know this is a strange comment to make about a 3-issue miniseries, but damn, this thing felt padded. This felt like about 1.5 issues worth of story stretched out, just brutally stretched out. And to the point when I walked in, Ryan, when 3 was on the shelf and you pulled my stuff out of the box, you're like, you didn't sign up for 3 Jokers number 3 is what you asked me at the cash register. I'm like, after number 2, I just kind of forgot that this thing even existed. I just literally forgot because I was so underwhelmed by number 2 that I just didn't even care anymore. So I would take issue 1, I would cut 90% of issue 2, use the remaining 10% to stitch 1 and 3 together and make an annual or a 2-part, a 2 bookend story, something like that. Or what Toby was saying, a storyline in the regular Batman title.
Well, I'm going to guess the confusion for some people comes from the whole Metron chair, 3 Joker.
Oh,
and how this connects. Like I said, I've got thoughts. We'll
I wasn't factoring that in.
Yeah.
So okay. That's I'll save the rest.
I forgot that this is what that stems from. Was that like
well, maybe not.
I literally have the panels up on another screen from when he's in the chair asking it questions.
Wow. Charlie.
So if you take the Metron chair stuff aside, which I kind of do, in this case, just because how much has the quote-unquote universe changed since then, and look at this just for what it is. I like the book. I like the story. I like the resolution at the end. Like, with the context of the story we got, I really like the book. But I will also be the first one to admit I kind of feel like it wasted the potential of the 3 Jokers, because sort of by the end of it, you're back down to 1 Joker, and with the way that this stitches together with sort of the, I don't know if we want to get into full spoiler territory yet, but
go for it.
With the way this stitches back into Killing Joke, it answers who was the first Joker, basically. Mm-hmm. Because they make it very, very clear within the story that the Joker created the other Jokers and then kind of manipulated them as part of this story.
Yeah, but then it kind of also says it says that happened, but then it goes what is the line? He says something like, "Oh, I created them, or did they create me?" Like it kind of keeps that mystery. You don't really know, so right.
But the second so we already knew Killing Joke, at least in part, was part of the continuity. But the minute you bring the rest of Killing Joke into continuity, that's the only sort of Joker origin that we have that
Totally.
look like it would be sort of be able to be affected by the, like if it was a question of which of the Jokers that origin was, but by the end of it, that's not the question.
Yeah, I mean, it's very it's
Um,
very clear, and they
the,
don't.
the only thing that really kind of makes this interesting in a way is that it makes the events in Killing Joke predate the first appearance of the Joker, which means the first appearance of the Joker was already a Joker created by the Joker.
What? Say that again?
So if you think about the first appearance of the Joker, which was this gangster Joker, which is very, very clearly the older Joker.
Which is the criminal.
That means the first time Batman encounters the Joker, the criminal Joker, he's not actually encountering the Joker yet.
I'm gonna back up Charlie on this one. If you lay out the continuity on a timeline, the Killing Joke Joker is the first Joker, according to this. The criminal Joker, the one that's kind of frowning most of the story, is the one that Batman meets in Batman #1.
Yeah, that's the criminal.
Like the 1940 Batman #1.
Wait, I don't understand why you guys all also said that he's the original Joker.
Right, because
I felt like the criminal could be the original one. He just killed him, and he did.
Yeah, Kevin, that Batman does not exist. That Joker does not exist. That's Golden Age. This is. I mean, we'll get into this, okay? Because again,
what Toby said kind of makes sense too, though, because like if that Joker existed, he could have like gotten killed by like this. This guy could have taken over whatever the Joker is now, and that guy's like, you know what I mean? Like this guy could be the definitive Joker, but there has been like 3 variations. Whether which one showed up first, like doesn't really matter. Who's like the one that sticks around?
That would suggest that the Jokers didn't create the like. If you take the premise that one of the Jokers created the other Jokers, which is a premise that seems fairly clear within this book, the first Joker is the only one that got created by an accident. Similar to like how the Joker later creates Harley Quinn and all that.
Yeah, I mean, Batman runs into him. I mean, as Red Hood. Right? That is the only Joker. Like these other Jokers are not. I think maybe you're reading a little too literal into this. They're not the Joker. He mocked up these guys.
But my interpretation of this is there is only one true Joker, but that doesn't mean that one Joker is responsible for all the Joker stories that have been told within Batman. At least that's sort of the premise of sort of the 3 Jokers to me is some of the times when these events took place, it's not necessarily all the same Joker.
Possibly, sure.
That was my same reading, Charlie.
Yeah. Brock.
Yep.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I reread the whole thing before we sat down to record, so it's real fresh in my mind. And I wanted to say something first, though. What Batman says in the Mobius chair, specifically to Joker, is the first thing he says, or first thing he asks is, who killed his parents? And then it's, yes, Joe Chill, that's right. And then he says, what's the Joker's true name? And then it pings and he goes, no, that's not possible. So we still don't, with that, we still don't exactly know, like, what the true Joker, or who the true Joker is.
Well, I mean, isn't that the end? I mean, he knew all along, right?
Well, so
yeah, at which point he would never ask the question to the chair if he already knew.
Wait, guys, I had this discussion with Marshall because it came up right after I read it. The fact that he says, what's the Joker's true name? And he says, that's not possible. The Joker that he knows the name of at the end of this story is just one of the Jokers. In the book specifically, he states, I knew a week after.
Mm-hmm.
He knew a week after, and that's the Killing Joke one that he knew of. Right? This is still asking what's the Joker's true name. We still don't know that because it hasn't been told to us.
So there's a 4th Joker.
No. There's more. The thing is the 3 Jokers is just the 3 Jokers that we focus on the most. the criminal, the comedian, and the clown. Don't shake your head at me. In the actual,
I'm not shaking my head.
No, Ryan is.
I will say nothing.
I'm not talking this at all.
I will wait my turn.
So the way I kind of look at the Mobius chair and the premise of this was Jeff Johns looked at all these past Joker stories and the fact that he as a character constantly has changed and evolved and went, I've done such a great job explaining Hawkman's origin and Green Lantern and all these other characters. This was sort of the initial intent was to kind of explore that a bit. But I feel like what it turned into by the time he started writing it and figured out the story he wanted to tell was not the story he necessarily had in mind when this question got first posed.
When we go back to the three Jokers, right? Those are the main three. In the book, it goes over all of the different types of Jokers because that's where they're trying to figure out where he came from. There's the dentist. There's the
I was gonna say you got the page. There's like 50 of them.
Yeah, there's
right?
it just keeps going. There was like 30
he created.
Yeah, there's like 30 some on in there of like where this character can come from. And the thing is the beauty of it is the Joker's origin. We don't know it. It's not nailed down. We know a origin.
Well, it is now.
No, it hasn't been nailed down completely because this isn't the true Joker's name.
Has.
No,
Killing
it's not.
Joke.
It's not the true Joker's name though.
Okay. I have to stop this.
Yeah, Ryan, jump in.
Brock. And this is for everyone. The Batman, this is like I feel like people are just misreading this book entirely. The Batman in Justice League in the Metron chair that asks, "What's the Joker's real name?" That is not the Batman that's in this comic book. This Batman in this comic book is pre-New 52. Now, possibly this is post-Rebirth or post. You mean
pre-Rebirth?
Pre-New 52. This is post-Crisis, Killing Joke, continuity Batman.
Totally.
Now, we'll get to where I think this story takes place in a minute. That the New 52 Batman is not the same character. New 52 has already been put into a box in Doomsday Clock. These are not the same characters. So the Batman that's like, there's three Jokers? What? What's his real name? That's not possible. He never went through this stuff, right? These are not the same characters. The character, so wow. the continuity of Killing Joke is post-Crisis, right? Post-Crisis on Infinite Earths. He's got the yellow oval, right? This is that same timeline. Obviously, it's to the current day,
80s look,
right? Even the Batmobile is the same.
Right. I mean, but it's to the current day, so this picks up in the pre-New 52 timeline because you obviously have Jason Todd, Red Hood, you have Barbara. She's some of the events of New 52 and Rebirth have still happened clearly because she's up and walking around and everything like that. So, but these are not the same characters. Doomsday Clock, like I said, already put New 52 aside as its own little parallel dimension. So, that's to me what makes this book so crazy is this is the Earth 1. Killing Joke is official. But we don't know his name. Batman does. We don't, but it doesn't matter, right? Again, he's just some random dude, right?
You're saying this is like Killing Joke 2, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is Killing Joke. This is like this is a direct sequel to Killing Joke, just in the quote unquote modern day.
As that book, I really like this book. As a direct sequel to Killing Joke, I think this is fantastic.
Totally.
Yeah, I think the red herring of the Metron chair thing, I think that's what people expected, that this was going to be some multiverse, time traveling, new gods, whatever, right? But that's not the case. So if that's your expectation, it was obviously mine. I think it was obviously most people's. But now that we have Doomsday Clock, and especially now that this is happening at the same time as Metal, I feel I have a pretty good idea of where they're going with this. And if you guys read about the DC Comics omniverse, the no continuity yet nonsense, we'll talk about this a little bit later. I think there's a little bit of truth to this. We've talked about Metal a number of times and where we think this is going to go. And I'm, again, very, very convinced that the end of Metal is basically the opening up of the Infinite Multiverse again. Everything reverts to a pre-New 52 state. Again, best of all worlds, because that's the whole point of the multiverse, is that you can kind of pick and choose from whatever you want. But this Doomsday Clock and now this feel like a post-Rebirth, post-Metal universe. This takes place sort of in that prime, ultimate, like everything in the kitchen sink DC universe, because they... I know some of the events of Doomsday Clock seem like they predate Metal, but where that story ends with the pre-New 52 JSA coming back, and now this with Barbara in the position she is during Rebirth, and Jason Todd being here now, and this linking directly to Killing Joke, to me, it's like we have taken New 52 Rebirth. You guys at home can't see me, but I'm like holding out my hands. And we've just pulled it out and sort of collapsed this continuity here. New 52 will now sit out here. Rebirth is this weird, like, world is changing, not quite solidified bit. And marching on, we're going to get this sort of, perfect quote unquote DC universe. So that's how I read it. This is clearly 100% in continuity with Killing Joke. Like, I don't think there's even a question here. So everything in this reads as not that character, not that Batman. It's just not the same person.
I think the difficulty falls in Batman that carried over from before the New 52. The Batman that carried over is virtually the same Batman. Because they did not. Hold on, the two series that they didn't really touch the continuity of was Batman and Green Lantern when they went over to the New 52. They gave us these other little 5-year before things with everybody else, but they didn't really mess with the continuity of what was going on with those two books specifically.
Zero Year though with Scott Snyder, right?
0 Year and the collapsing of the Robins. Really, I mean, again, Batman tonally isn't changed very much. Green Lantern is just a straight continuation. Like, it's not even a blip of
but that's the thing is that's the difficulty with it, is because Killing Joke happened before this. What you're saying is that New 52 Batman should have already known this information.
No, because this didn't happen to him.
So to me, the thread that gets me about this, and this isn't something where I disagree with you at all, Ryan, but I think it's where I think a lot of the confusion comes from. You draw the line between the New 52 Batman to Rebirth. And Rebirth is already establishing Batman's looking into the three Jokers information, which suggests that you can draw a line between the events in sort of the Darkseid War stuff to Rebirth,
from Flashpoint.
But Rebirth is still not the elements of pre-New 52 have been sprinkling in, like the Return of the Kent, but not all of it.
No, but I'm just saying that in general, this book was sort of positioned as paying off that setup, where I don't feel like what we got delivered in the end was really about paying off that setup, which is fine with me in terms of, but I really think, because when you, at least the way I kind of look at it at this point, is this book has gone through years of development beyond what was necessarily originally planned when they sprinkled this question.
Sure.
And in that time, the books have evolved, the characters have evolved, the story has changed, and this book changed with it, which is fine, because I still got a story that I enjoy that is just doesn't necessarily got the story that was originally being promoted in a way. And a large part of that just has to do with the fact that, like, and we've talked about this to death, but like Doomsday Clock took so long. This, in theory, would have been the thing that immediately followed that if it was on its original timeline, which means it would have come out 2 years ago or whatnot.
But
Kevin,
remember,
we're waiting for your comments on these delays.
But remember, they did change where Doomsday Clock was supposed to end. Became something different. And this became
that's sort of
different.
my point. It's just we're seeing the expectations from, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but how long ago was the Rebirth one shot? 5 years, 6 years? Like
20,
I don't
2016.
even. Rebirth 2016. Yeah,
Okay.
4 years ago.
So we're seeing the expectation that was set up 4 years ago, which is not necessarily the book that was delivered.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree with that at all. I just think they teased it here. The event happened here, but there's just not a lot of correlation between these characters because I can't. This makes
Ryan,
perfect
why don't you
sense.
Just call your buddy Jeff and just
This makes perfect sense as a direct follow-up pre-New 52, not direct follow-up, but years later, obviously, but as a follow-up story to Killing Joke in the pre-New 52 continuity, taking the events of New 52 and Rebirth that have sort of been massaged into this new continuity that we're going to get. As it does not work if it's Batman in the Mobius chair says these things, and this is the follow-up story. There's this huge disconnect here, so that's why I'm like, it doesn't make any sense if that doesn't work because the Batman we're going to get in a couple months is going to be. I mean, Rebirth has already put most of the normal Batman stuff back. The sort of truncated timeline of the New 52 is already gone, right?
So from my perspective, this is a very good follow-up, and I really like it when you put it in the context of what was actually delivered. I almost wish it wasn't called The Three Jokers. It wasn't something people were waiting for like if there had been no tease whatsoever about the Three Jokers with Rebirth and the Mobius chair and all that stuff, I think people would have received this book very differently.
Yeah, I agree.
But hold on. So the thing is though, in the Rebirth special, Hal talks to Batman in the cave, and Batman says specifically, "It didn't give me a name."
Yeah, because he says he said, "What's a Joker's name?" And he goes, "Oh, there's 3 of them." What?
Yeah, but the thing is what that does is that it's one of those things where again you have to follow. It says what's his true name.
I think you're
talking about.
Yeah, I think you're basically reaching too far on that.
Yeah, I think in general, if you just accept the fact that there may have been a story in mind to follow up that stuff, but that's not what came out, then you can accept everything the way it is and be very satisfied with it.
Yeah, we have a definitive origin for the Joker. We know his backstory. He has a wife and now a kid that is a couple years, that is 8, 10, maybe based on the drawing. I'm not sure how old the kid's supposed to be. We have a timeline for the Joker that clearly Batman's now been around for that, that magical 10 years that they like to use for like the FF and Batman and stuff, kind of like the longest heroes.
For me, and this is in some ways even more significant about this book, it's one of my favorite things about this book is like, I loved everything with sort of the payoff with the Killing Joke, but I also loved everything about Joe Chill, and
the Joe Chill stuff is so good.
Yeah. Like the giving Batman some sense of closure with the death of his parents to make the Joker more meaningful in a way. Just, I love that stuff because it means it's not a change to the character of Batman I ever thought I'd get, similar to everything that King did with Batman and Catwoman and like that kind of stuff. Like they're actually having Batman evolve within some of these stories in very interesting ways that adjust some of that motivation.
Oh, and of course, Alfred's alive during this. We should point that out. Meaning,
that's totally
this is
true.
not current continuity. This is, again, in my mind, where we are going to end up in post-metal of this sort of everything comes back. So all the stuff that
why don't you
they're winnable back from.
Why don't you think they would market? I mean, I guess in a marketing perspective, I'm kind of confused. Like, do you think if they came out and said like, "Hey guys, this book actually isn't going to be like the Rebirth, like post-Rebirth answer. This is going to be more of like a Killing Joke sequel." Like, why do you think they were like so like kind of like unclear about like how
I don't even. I think we all said fandom was like, "Oh, they're going to do this thing." I actually don't know that they. I mean, maybe they're like, oh, they may have said like in one thing, oh, you know, from this the mention in Dark Side War, what is the secret, you know, like, but I don't know that they were like, we are going to answer the questions of that. I don't know that the marketing really came off that way. If it did, I think that's just what we had in our head.
Totally.
Because we've been talking about this for fucking 4 years.
Yeah, insane.
I would like to go back and actually look at what some of the solicitation was and what they were actually. I mean, I guess I could always just pull this up. I don't really know how they were pushing that, but I feel like it was its own thing.
I love in this book, I was thinking about the third issue, like we were talking about the Joe Chill stuff, like some of the like, just like I was like, as I was reading it, I was picking up and kind of like really enjoying like some of the scenes where like Batman like saving Joe Chill from like the vat of acid, and there's like scenes of him like carrying him like through the smoke. It's like, whoa, that's pretty powerful. Like when you actually just look at that picture, like it's pretty sick. Like what he did with like Joe Chill and Batman's relationship, and like even like the idea that when Joe Chill like is looking at Batman after he saves him and he's like out in the alley and he goes like, I know who you are. And you're like, oh, he's talking about Bruce Wayne. But then you're like, oh, no, he actually doesn't know who he is. But he's just like, he's been in jail this whole time. So Joe Chill would like have to hear about Batman from like out, like, you know, like from other prisoners. He'd actually had never like seen Batman because he's been in jail the whole time that he's been like becoming you know, the Dark Knight outside, which is crazy to think about. I never actually thought about that.
Well, the whole idea, the whole part of Joker knowing his name, knowing who Bruce Wayne is, it's funny because it sort of doesn't hit as hard based off what happened in Joker War, and it's like
100%. It's almost I almost skipped over it. I almost didn't like realize it when he says like Jason Todd, Barbara Gordon, Bruce Wayne. I was like, oh, okay, of course. But I was like, oh wait, what the fuck? He knows who they are. That's crazy.
So the solicitation. Now I'll maybe poke around later, see if I can find some of the articles and interviews. So this is the actual solicitation text for Three Jokers #1. 30 years after Batman: The Killing Joke. So there you go. After Killing Joke changed comics forever, Three Jokers re-examines the myth of who or what the Joker is and what is at the heart of his eternal battle with Batman. Jeff Johns, the Justice book, the artist, the team that waged the Dark Side War, the pages of the Justice League, reunite to tell the ultimate story of Batman and the Joker after years of anticipation, starting in DC Universe Rebirth #1. The epic miniseries you've been waiting for is here. Find out why there are three Jokers and what it means for the Dark Knight and the Clown Prince of Crime. So they don't even, I mean, they mentioned Dark Side War only because of the creative team, but their starting point is Rebirth 1. So what specifically, Brock, you said you have the panels up from Rebirth?
Yeah.
What does he say in there?
So the top of the page is who killed my parents, and then you get the ping, right? And it says, yes, Joe Chill, that's right. ... What's the Joker's true name?
Okay.
Ping, no, that's not possible.
And that's it? There's more than that, isn't there?
That is it.
Isn't that in Dark Side War, though?
Yeah, that's in issue 42.
No. Rebirth 1, not Dark Side War.
The Rebirth for when he's talking to Hal?
Yeah, it says the story that starts in Rebirth #1. Sorry, yeah. I thought you had that up.
No, I have where he's talking to. He says, it doesn't give me the page in this. So this is from Justice League 50.
I don't want Justice League 50. I want Rebirth number 1.
Right, well, okay, the
just Rebirth number 1.
Rebirth, there's just a panel that I have from this article. It says it's the Joker in Civic City, 1 dead in a candy store, 2 more held hostage, and then Master Wayne, which is most likely Alfred. The Joker was caught outside of Baltimore 3 hours ago. They're transferring him to Arkham as we speak. So what is it then? There aren't 2 Jokers. He says, no, Alfred. The chair said there are 3. I need to find out what that really means.
Okay. So I feel like whatever was maybe going to be happening in Darkseid War is just not the case of what they're doing here. And also, I firmly believe that we're in post-Rebirth. We are now in, or from Rebirth Special 1 and up, we are now in this sort of fixed timeline where Batman's more like the original, not the New 52 version. So that's my read on it. I loved it. Issue 2, I
loved it. Yeah,
Kevin, you're not wrong. Issue 2 was like just kind of, it was the middle chapter. Like nothing really happened in it.
Right.
It just linked up the next issue.
Some of the scenes in issue 2 are cool though. I mean, like the whole it was kind of like pretty brutal with like the whole Jason Todd like being beat up with like the red hood on his like head and was like kind of wrapped around naked. It was like pretty like it was jarring.
That was like every person I talked to, and sorry if you're one of the people I talked to, that are like, I listen to all these YouTube channels and they're all saying that Red Hood's gonna be the new Joker. It's like, well, that's what they're trying to do, but that's not what's gonna happen,
of course,
because that's what Joker's trying. Like, he's not gonna succeed.
Yeah,
and if he is, it's like, it's not gonna last. But no, I mean, I'm always happy when they have Jason Todd and Red Hood, or Jason Todd and Joker go up against each other, because it's obviously is a lot of history there. But yeah, issue 2 was way more character building sort of set up. Yeah,
the thing is each issue's kind of given to one of the Jokers, right? The first one's given to the clown, right? The second one is given to the criminal and plotting, and then the last one is given to the comedian. And that's, I think, where you that's where, like, I think that, yes, it did feel spaced out a little too much, but I think that in giving it 3 issues, you were able to give that little bit in each one.
Yes, I get the structure. My point is, there are more pages here than there are story to justify those pages. It's a sequel to The Killing Joke, which was accomplished in one.
It's Gary Frank art. It's awesome. It looks good.
Yeah, absolutely no. It's not Jason. It's Jason, right? It's not Gary Frank.
Fabok.
Oh, sorry,
just Fabok.
Yeah.
Fabok. Sorry.
Yeah, no quibble about the art at all. I'm just saying, imagine The Killing Joke itself told as 3 double-sized issues.
Well, if The Killing Joke was being told today, I think it would.
Oh, hell, it absolutely would be, Toby. It absolutely would be, but it doesn't need to be.
No, we'll see how Killing Joke and this are how thick they are next to each other.
I guess my viewpoint is there's nothing I would cut from the first issue, and there's actually nothing I would cut from the third issue.
Agreed.
The second issue is where I understand they wanted to try and make that the aftermath of Jason Todd killing one of the Jokers and exploring what that does to some of the character relationships, but I agree it didn't need to be a full issue that way to do that. It could have just padded the beginning of number 3 a little bit and you would have been fine.
Agreed.
Yep.
What's up with John's trying to have Jason Todd and Barbara be a thing, though? That was kind of the only thing I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of like this is going to push a lot of people
villain.
off.
It's
the true villain in the story is the
fun time janitor.
Was that the Joker, right? Because
the
I actually just caught that on my reread, the purple jumpsuit. I was like, oh shit, I totally didn't see that the first time around.
And I think it says fun time cleaners on it.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
I think what it is it kind of reflects to like how broken people find each other or gravitate towards one another. And kind of just fun time cleaners.
I wouldn't read anything more into it than that. I mean, if
Well, that's the whole point, right? This is something that happened, and it's brushed away because I mean that's what the note represents. It's all brushed away because he's never going to talk about it. She's never going to read the note, so it's as if it never happened.
Well, and two, if there's any two characters that are going to be able to bond over the terror they've shared with
pain,
Joker, yeah, it's going to be Barbara and just Todd. So, yeah, I mean, art's amazing. Man, he can mimic Brian Boland like nobody's business in some of those Killing Joke panels. Really cool. Yeah, just a fab book. I mean, art of his career, I think. It was so good.
From a storytelling perspective, though, the one other thing I had to criticize about it is like the Barbara was kind of there just to like be there because she got shot, you know what I mean? But like her character arc in the story is kind of like non-existent. Where like Jason has like, he shoots the Joker, he gets beat up. Batman has like the Joe Chill thing, and Barbara kind of is just like the third wheel that's just kind of like running around the whole time, but her story never kind of gets resolved. I guess the stuff with her dad at the end a little bit, but I feel like that was part which kind of was
like, we'll get to the part with Gordon in a second, but I thought I mean, I feel like her push was, I've seen you kill this person. Do I, are you going to force me to testify? Are you going to force me to take you down?
She was like the middle person between the two extremes of Batman and Jason Todd, like the killer and the person that doesn't want to turn the killer in. So she was kind of I see that totally.
Well,
but she also gets her lethargic stuff in when she's battling the Joker and she slams the camera back in his face.
I love that panel. I just saw that the second time around. That was great.
I think the takeaway for me on the second issue specifically was the fact that I like the fact that Jason Todd basically called her out on even though you made it seem like you tried to stop me, if you really wanted to stop me, you would have.
Right.
Like for me, that was more telling than.
Yeah, she obviously isn't going to cry over the death of the Joker. She's not going to be that upset over it, but she won't pull the trigger.
No, but what I mean by that is he pretty much called her out on like, when's the last time you missed, and like that kind of thing. Like there was definitely some level of hesitation there, which I think is what they were using to kind of bond the two through. That they both, even if she wasn't prepared to act on it, she wanted the Joker dead too. Yeah.
So another part that really made me think, okay, this takes place a little bit in the future. This is going to be post Dooms or post Metal, post Future State, and everything. And this could be a change up to the continuity of background going forward. She straight up says, like, see you later, Dad, right? To Gordon at the end there. Like, that wasn't like some whispered tone. At least that's not how I read it. So in the current issue of Batgirl, he still does not know that she's Barbara. So this could be teasing an upcoming plot that they're going to have in a new Batgirl comic or a new status quo post Metal. So I would, you would think that Gordon would have figured it out by now, but I don't know.
Well, there were always hints back in that time period of the Killing Joke of that era that he knew it.
That he knew.
And it's just kind of a wink, wink. Just unspoken. So it may be what you're saying, a future clue, or it may be that's how Johns is reading it from the past and just making it literally spoken.
Yeah, that's true. Well, so the rumor today from Bleeding Cool, not that this takes a rocket science to figure out, but the rumor is that they love that 3 Joker. So we're gonna get a special 3 Joker special down the road. Maybe it'll be 4 Jokers, maybe it'll be 2.5 Jokers.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
2.5 Jokers and a baby.
This even was another issue. That's a good idea.
Well, I will totally take another issue if my cash register has no complaints. We sold a hell of a lot for that. How many covers?
Yeah,
quite a lot. We got them all.
I will echo what was said earlier about the Joe Chill stuff. I really, really, really enjoyed that stuff.
Mhm.
That's why I'm so torn on this book, because as a Three Jokers book, I feel like in ways I was let down, but in other ways I thought there was some really, really good stuff in there. So that's why I'm like, I like it, but also not. So, yeah.
Well, I generally dislike Joe Chill. I think I've made that pretty obvious on this
Yeah.
podcast. I
Like, this
not
is the first time where I'm like I'm digging this a lot. Like this
well,
is
not
the first time where
not
it doesn't bother me.
yeah, not specifically in this book. I prefer the post-crisis the post-crisis origin of there is no Joe Chill. That
Yeah.
it's just random nameless thug. I've always preferred that origin, and that's another thing. As far as I know, Killing Joke. I mean, is Joe Chill mentioned by name in
No.
Killing Joke?
So.
No.
Because they have his parents. You see his parents get killed, right? There's like at least one scene of
But
like
it's not,
that.
it doesn't.
Couple scenes of the alley, but
I don't even remember at the time. So the Killing Joke's 88. I don't even remember at that time if Joe Chill was in continuity or not.
yeah, I don't.
At that point,
I mean, I think at
'Cause there was-
post-crisis,
pre-crisis he was,
yeah.
and post I don't think he was though.
No, I don't think Joe Chill came back in any real form till. Did Morrison even?
Yeah, but
involved?
he's in one of the Morrison issues.
Yeah, I think that's when he comes back. I don't remember Joe Chill being in anything prior to that.
So now you've got a weird mix of timelines.
Right. But this was a case where I was like, okay, I'm sort of okay with this, with Joe Chill in this. I generally prefer Joe Chill doesn't exist, but it made this story work because I liked the idea of, oh, okay, that Joe Chill would be the ultimate Joker, right? I mean, he not only killed his parents, now Joe Chill is gonna torment Batman forever, right? So,
well, in a weird way, especially as they were leaning into the whole turn Joe Chill into the Joker, I kind of felt like it was going right up to sort of the Tim Burton Batman with Jack Napier and stuff becoming the Joker. Like it would have all but renamed the character into like that character for me. But no, I think you have to. So ironically, my favorite Joe Chill story is not actually from a comic that I know of. It's actually from an episode of Batman the Brave and the Bold. Because they were using Joe Chill, if I recall, it was Phantom Stranger and the Spectre were using Joe Chill as a foil for Batman on whether or not he would kind of cross the line and that kind of stuff, pursuing Joe Chill. And from that perspective, I don't mind Joe Chill being used. I don't even mind a entity like that could grant Batman the knowledge of who killed him to give that temptation or that kind of stuff. Like when it's more than just, oh, he's already in prison, or oh, Batman knows where he is at all times. I don't necessarily like it that much. But when it's used in such a way to explore Batman's character more, I like it. And I think that's what this delivered. It wasn't just about Batman knows who killed his parents. It was about Batman facing that with new perspective and such.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting book, Three Jokers. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to say. Any last thoughts before we wrap up? We got a couple questions.
Why don't you get your buddy Johns to come back onto the podcast and
back on?
Huh?
Yeah, we still don't have his secret origin, Toby. We need him on originally.
You didn't have him on before?
No. I've tried. I'd love to have him on.
Podcast?
No.
Nope. When he came to the shop, that predated the podcast.
It did? Storylines here? Or not storylines, but timelines? Oh, shit. Okay, well, fine. I'm back onto the podcast. I will go back to my Rebirth storyline and timeline, and we'll get John's for the first time, I guess.
Well, I I'd love to. I would absolutely love to. I'll ask him again. I have no idea.
Then tell Brock if his theory is right or not, because I'm really.
Well, so this is a time to kind of dovetail a little bit into what I mentioned earlier about this rumor on Bleeding Cool, and it's a little bit. I feel like
you're combating rumors all the time, and it's a.
Well, I feel like they just heard something through a game of telephone and made it into more of a thing.
You mean journalism in today's world?
Yeah. The rumor is that basically post Metal and after Future State, there's not going to be any more like canon or shared universe stuff in any DC comic book. That every book can kind of be its own standalone thing. And I mean, that's just ridiculous. Every comic that DC publishes and Marvel publishes already chooses what continuity to use and what continuity it chooses to ignore. You know, the Batman and Batman, the Batman and Detective, the Batman and Justice League, the Spider-Man and Spider-Man, the Spider-Man and Nonstop Spider-Man, the Spider-Man that pops up in Spider-Woman. Like, these characters technically are all the same character, but they are all in such different positions doing their own things at the time when they exist. The only time continuity really matters is when there's a big crossover or a big event. You know, it doesn't matter what Wonder Woman is doing in her own book and then what Wonder Woman is doing in Justice League, because they're going to be at different times. If you look at like what Morrison's doing in Green Lantern right now, it is so often its own little world, but that book does not like shit on any sort of continuity on what's going on in the DC universe. Like, it's not blatantly saying that it's in some other like, oh yeah, this is in the Golden Age. I'm like, what? Now, what I would assume is going to happen with DC is that, like all these companies, that if you want to, you know, have a major change to your character, I mean, if Superman is out as Clark Kent post Metal, that will be reflected in every book. You're maybe not in your Black Label books, not in your kids' books, but if Clark Kent is known publicly to be Superman still, that will be the case in Justice League. That will be the case when he shows up in Flash. I don't believe for a second that DC is going to say, no more continuity in our titles. You could do whatever you want. I mean, that's what Black Label's for. That's what, you know, those standalone
has always been like,
yeah, those standalone graphic novels.
What you need is an anchor, and that's what the continuity is an anchor. Now, the thing is the anchor can be different. It can look different. It can weigh different. But as an anchor, it's going to be what holds everything together and keeps everything kind of in check. But like you said, Batman showing up in Justice League, or Batman in his own book, or Batman and Detective, right? The idea of who that Batman is consistent, but the time of where that happens doesn't matter until it's where does this event fall, right?
Yeah, if they change a costume, that costume I expect it won't be in Three Jokers, it won't be in Batman Damned. No. But if they give Batman a new costume, Batman, Detective, Justice League, and any book he shows up in, I'm going to guarantee you in almost every situation that costume's going to show up. So I don't believe this to the point that I've been meaning to do this for like fucking years, and I finally did it.
Went crazy and did a weird thing and have all this stuff, and it's your favorite GIF, right? The guy going.
No, I did not post the Charlie Always Sunny conspiracy theory gift. However, I did finally make a list, a thread on Twitter of what I believe to be nonsense rumors, and I'm going to keep track of these as time goes on. this is probably going to be very DC heavy because that's what all the crazy rumors seem to be about. I mean, maybe if there's some like MCU stuff, I'll throw those in
Maybe
too.
one day I'll follow along.
The three that I have started with is this whole continuity change, right? This DC Omniverse thing, and that is, I mean, as far that in the Rise of the New God thing, they're talking about the Omniverse, right? They're like this multiverse of multiverses, blah 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 blah. But I mean, this is nothing that DC doesn't already have. The fact that Marvel and all the independent companies are going to suddenly be hiring all the big names away from DC because DC is no longer paying its talent decent rates, and so all the talent is leaving DC to go work for other companies. Right when Mark Waid starts working for DC, right when Tom King announces like he has like 3 books in the pipeline, right when like every creator is like gearing up to do their next thing. But no, according to Bleeding Cool, every creator is leaving DC in March. And of course, my third rumor, the one that started it all, is Rob Liefeld saying that DC Comics will be out of business in 1 year. That was back in February. So Wednesday, February 24th, 2021, 9 a.m., 1 year to the date.
Quick question.
We'll see what.
Do you have a countdown timer connected to that?
I have it on my clock. I have an alarm on my clock.
I have 2. This.
I also have the one where what's the guy's name from Mile High? Chuck Krasinski, does him? Said that Marvel is going to be 90% of the market share as of August 11th, 2021. So that's on my phone too. See if Marvel is 90% of the market share in August. We'll wait.
Are you going to add that onto your thread?
It's going to go on. Yeah, once we get a little closer.
Hopefully I can follow this thread one day.
It's on Twitter. So
yeah,
if
exactly. I hope I can follow this thread.
Just make a burner account. It's fine. If you see a ridiculous comic book rumor, I want some MCU stuff on here too. I want some TV and movie stuff too. I'm gonna keep track of this stuff. Send me a message.
Black Panther ones.
What's that?
There's gonna be way too many Black Panther ones.
Oh, I've already seen like 9 posts that confirmed. Sure, he's taking over. It's like, I mean, okay, confirmed by nobody. Sure. So that's my Send me some crazy rumors. I'm gonna start keeping track of this stuff and see where they'll all. Like I'm actually gonna. I have linked to my thread. I'm going to keep on these and follow up and see what happens with these. I want
everybody to realize that at some point we are going to have Ryan from the Comics Conspiracy Wall GIF that people can then show.
It's not a conspiracy. I'm keeping track of this stuff. I'm going to see
see, I did this and I'm
Bleeding Cool says in March all the creators are leaving DC for other companies and because they're not paying enough. Well, I don't expect to know about the money, but we'll see if all the creators working at DC leave.
So I feel like we just need like a thermometer or something. So like each one you debunk, you just like fill in the thermometer, and then something happens when you get to the top.
So one, I can debunk that right now. Batcat is only going to be on its 3rd issue. Like, King's not going to abandon Batcat.
He said he's already has another series in the works, another 12-issue series. So not happening. and he's like, oh yeah, the writers are specifically being targeted. That they're not going to pay the writers. It's like, huh? Okay. Yeah, it's such fucking nonsense. So send me your crazy rumors. Send me your crazy theories.
You need to have just an email, like an account. crazyrumors@comicconspiracy.biz.
Yeah, because if it's an irregular email, you're going to read it in fucking 20 years from now.
I will.
It'll pop up on the podcast. You remember this rumor from 2023?
So I want to go down. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think there's any chance of this? Do you think there's any chance that DC is gonna like just drop its continuity? I just can't.
I don't see DC dropping their continuity. I see maybe DC allowing creators to play in a bigger playground, so to speak. Like Sean Murphy right now is in Black Label has created his own Batman universe that everybody's enjoying, and it's a great thing. If if somebody wants to go and play with a character on a multiple dimension Earth, have at it. Let's have some fun. I think that's maybe where DC might be leaning, is just kind of more of an open, it's not anchored as much.
Mhm.
Like the anchored titles are going to be a smaller amount, and the other ones are going to be a little bit bigger. It's kind of an expansion of Elseworlds, an expansion of Black Label.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, like how like their approach, like their cinematic universe, like where they try to do the continuity thing, but then like they kind of like the whole ethos of like DC is that like there's so much history is that everything can kind of be told in its own little corner, right? You know what I mean? Like I feel like it's them just embracing what DC really is finally, and being like, look how well our movies did with like the Joker, then like, you know, with Wonder Woman, Aquaman. Like it all doesn't have to connect, but when it does, it can, but it doesn't have to. I guess is the right idea.
Right.
But that's that's how it's always been. But I guess that could be like their focus. We're like, all right, guys, we don't have to have the big crossover. We're like, you know, like kind of like the early 2000s, like Identity Crisis, Infinite Crisis, where like everything was so continuity heavy, where now it could finally be like, I mean, it's like what Doomsday Clock set up at the end with like what Metaverse.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's pretty much it.
But they're always going to have those crossovers, right? They're always going to get back to those big events.
That is true. But I mean, I think that maybe it's just going to be more of like a mission statement that like, hey, we're going to really kind of like let everything like anything's on the table, that we could do anything. It's not as streamlined as it had to be, or like we pretended that it was before, I guess.
Yeah. No, I don't mind if they want to have, you know, a number of books that have, you know, they're in whatever continuity they want. They're in their own stories. DC's never shied away from this, but your monthly superhero titles, I just can't believe that they would ditch a connection.
No,
they'll connected universe.
They'll have continuity in their main core titles, but I think you're going to see stuff like Hawkman, right? The current one was in continuity, but they could do a brand new Hawkman that's set during the JSA era or on a different world. I mean, with Hawkman alone, they've established so much of DC being way bigger than we actually think it is. I mean, at one point they had him like as a Kryptonian, right?
Yeah.
So
that's great. I love that. They could go back and explore any of that stuff, but that's still in continuity. That's still connected.
But I'm saying, like, the Hawkman series that was out now was done that way. Someone taking Hawkman in the future could do something completely different. Or do it on an alternate, you know, do it on one of the multiverse Earths or the infinite Earths or however they're going to say it.
And even before like the Scott Snyder run, like when before that was there like a Justice League book that actually mattered for the past like 5 years, right? It's all been kind of like,
well, the Snyder stuff did.
Yeah,
the Snyder stuff
for sure. But I'm saying before that, like the Justice League book for the past like post Rebirth has been not even didn't even matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was all its own story.
Totally.
Yeah. Which is the Justice League books have always done that on and off, you know, even the Morrison stuff. I mean, me and Toby were just talking about this. It acknowledges the change to continuity, but it always did its own thing.
Totally.
You know, the main Justice League book has usually kind of been its own little title, and that's kind of different,
right? Than Marvel, because Avengers is always kind of like, I mean, since Bendis is on, that was like the like continuity moving book. Like whatever happens in Avengers, kind of like, or New Avengers or Mighty Avengers was always like the book moving like that kind of like continuity forward.
But I mean, like Wolverine would be in New Avengers, and then the Wolverine comic, I mean, they really had nothing to do with each other, you know.
And Spider-Man too, that's true.
Yeah, it would when something happens. So like Civil War, right? Obviously the events of Captain America and
Secret Invasion and all that shit too.
Yeah, because the big crossovers get into it. But, you know, they don't let Squirrel Girl in New Avengers affect the current Squirrel Girl comic, right? I mean, they're very disconnected. So yeah, they use the continuity when they need to, but I think a lot of times they let the books do their own thing as long as it's not actively contradicting something.
If my memory serves me correctly, it was issue 73 of Wolverine. I can't remember. I think it was volume 4, where it's like the day, like it's showing what Wolverine's doing like every day of the week or something.
That's a great issue.
And it's it's literally like you could take each one of those and be like, oh, he's in X-Men this today.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
that's
in
a very
Spider-Man
funny
today.
issue.
He's like, that issue is so well done and just an amazing issue that it's like, and what was funny is that was what Old Man Logan. That was like right around the Old Man Logan stuff, or like right at the end of it. So that I always go back to that one and kind of thinking of how these characters kind of pop in and pop out and pop in and pop out of other titles.
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect example, right? I mean, Old Man Logan is such a dramatic change of the character. When Wolverine shows up and stuff during that period, he's Old Man Logan. But the second he goes away from it, they just revert back, and the stories kind of feel like, well, this could be at any point because Old Man Logan is this one little section at a time. You know, they're not going to actively say, "Oh, yeah, I was never that Old Man Logan. What are you talking about?" But you could just never mention it and have 1,000 Wolverine stories that never mention Old Man Logan.
You have to do. That's been the history of comics. You have to do it that way. You can't. That Wolverine issue is a great like one-off, but imagine trying to coordinate that as an editor on a regular. Because even go back to like the beginning of the Marvel age in FF 49 and 50 when Galactus shows up and is like, this thing is here to kill the world, and the only thing standing between is these 4 people. Is like, well, what about the Avengers? What about Thor? What about Doctor Strange? You just have to say, never mind that, and we're just telling this one story right now. And Ryan, on your predictions plate, here's one you can add. Or no, you wanted rumors. Never mind. I think at DC post Metal, especially with Marie now in charge, you're going to see a lot more reaching out, or the doors kind of being opened to creators to say, come play with these characters. You'll see a lot more things like Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, and the Sienkiewicz, Dennis Cowan question book. Like, and you could say, well, where does Dead Earth fit in continuity? Or where does that question series fit? Or where does Joker Killer Smile fit in continuity? Yeah. And it's going to be a lot more, or that Jimmy Olsen, that Matt Fraction Jimmy Olsen.
Or like Deceased, all the Tom Taylor stuff is like that, yeah?
Yeah, so I think you'll see a lot more opportunities out there for people to come in and pitch things. Maybe it's an annual, maybe it's 3 Black Label issues, maybe it's 12 issues, and just don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm. It's like, where does Strange Adventures fall right now?
Yeah,
right. Where did Mr. Miracle fall? Like it's.
But again, you could say that about most books from most companies always, because it's not like, well, I wake up and I check the news and I'm looking at the events from every other comic book, every issue. No, like 12 issues of Aquaman could take place in the course of like a day.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just slotted in over here. And then all this Justice League stuff is here. And then his team up with Flash is here. And it doesn't really matter.
Right.
It only matters when there's the big events. And stuff like the Black Label, stuff like, those are clearly out separate. But if you take like the current Wonder Woman now, the Mariko Tamaki run, I mean, that feels like it's just its own thing.
It feels like it's just continued from what we've been reading from Wonder Woman for, however long we've been reading. It doesn't feel like it's taking Wonder Woman in any new direction as in like, oh, this is out of continuity or not associated with this, right? It's bringing Maxwell Lord back, which is amazing.
Yeah, and acknowledging previous continuity with him.
So I think that like, Kevin, you hit the nail on the head with the come play and have some fun.
No, we should say, Marie Javins got officially announced now as editor-in-chief of DC Comics. She was split editor-in-chief with Michelle Wells back in August, so I don't know if that was a temporary position or if Wells is being moved to a new position or what. I don't exactly know. I don't know that anyone knows yet. But Marie Javins is now DC's official sole editor-in-chief.
Before that,
And
wasn't
yeah,
she over some global, the global DC stuff?
She was Justice League group editor for a while.
Okay.
Yeah,
She was moved into another role, kind of not specifically tied to any comics, any specific titles, I mean.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then after that whole shakeup, but I know we never like to engage in any hyperbole on this podcast, so I won't do it now to break the habit. But this is, and I've actually thought about this. It's just not off the top of my head. This is literally, as far as I can, in my own brain, come up with the best pick they could make at this time for that job.
Mm-hmm.
In the entire comics industry, this is the best pick. She's known. She was at Marvel in the 80s. She's been around the industry. She's seen the rise and fall, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. She's got solid relationships with creators from all over the spectrum. She's not a controversial figure like people we won't name. Mm-hmm. She's a beloved, super nice, super smart, like can handle the business end, can handle the relationship end, can handle the personal end. Great choice.
Yeah, some of the Variety article you sent to us, Ryan, says that it was she served as, prior to the promotion, she was DC's executive editor of global publishing and digital strategy, but she helped edit titles like Justice League, DC Superhero Girls, this Exit Stage Left, the Snagglepuss Chronicles, Superman Smashes the Klan, Harley Quinn Breaking Glass, which is amazing, and Dark Knight's Death Metal. So,
yeah, seems like a good position. So we'll see.
Funny enough, they acquired her before, or she was hired temporarily in 2014 to help with the Convergence transfer.
Yeah, moved over. But of course, it'd be weird for them to sign a new editor-in-chief for 3 months before going out of business. So, we'll see if Rob Liefeld's prediction is true. We are going to read a few questions.
They're going to be out of business.
Did Craig send his question?
I don't have a question here from Craig. If you are a Patreon member, we have a sticky, permanent.
He probably forgot. Can I ask it to everybody? Because I remember it.
Sure.
He sent it to me 2 weeks ago.
Oh, you told me. Yeah, you didn't tell me the question.
No, yeah, because I wanted to put you on the spot. All right, Charlie, you ready? This is the Craig question. What is your favorite Justice League story? What is your favorite Avengers story? And which one, if you can step back and look objectively, is better?
Well, I'll tell you the Justice League story.
It's got Mitzelplex in it.
Rock of Ages, is that yours?
Rock of Ages is really good. It's. Can I just say the Morrison run? No. As much as I love the Morrison run, I think I've actually mentioned this before. I think my favorite story in there is actually the 2-issue Adam Strange.
That's Mark Waid, though.
Mark Waid fill-in issues. Right, I know.
You are cheating on Grant Morrison right now, sir.
I love those issues. God, Rocky of Ages is real good. Oh, the Sandman story arc is really good too.
And don't you have Ryan? Don't you have a run of Avengers?
I do.
So, what's your favorite Avengers story?
Like early comic reading, I was a big fan of Operation Galactic Storm. That was like one of my first big like crossover stories. But I might actually go the kind of couple issue Kurt Busiek Avengers Thunderbolts little team up crossover. Do you remember that?
No.
This was during like the Heroes Reborn stuff.
Okay.
I really like that run. I don't have as much of the older. I mean, the Silver Age Avenger stuff are fine, but that's a little outside my wheelhouse. I don't have obviously I read the stuff as they're much older than I am, so a lot of the 70s and 80s stuff was before my time of reading Avengers. No disrespect meant to Toby, because we were both reading Avengers during the Brown Coat era, but I think those are going to be rough to call off as some of your favorites. But I do like Operation Galactic Storm. I thought it was a cool crossover. I had some fun. That was a fun big event.
As I'm collecting the Epic collections, I'm not entirely sure if my Avengers are the Brown Coat Avengers. It might just be either before or right after.
I think it's right before. The Brown Coat's right. I mean, that's leading up to issue 400. That's like coming towards the end of the run.
Because as I'm reading it, because like I never actually, I mean, maybe one or two guys were wearing brown coats, but I don't remember the team wearing them ever. And as I'm reading through these Epic collections or flipping through them, I'm like, people always kind of refer at that time to the Brown Coat Avengers, but I don't think that's actually the area I like.
Yeah, the Brown Coat Avengers, I mean, that's when Cersei's on the team, and Black Widow, and
before.
And Black Knight.
Yeah, there was a lot of Black Knight stuff, and fucking Hercules, and fucking
Vision when he's and that's when they did like the crossover with the X-Men.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be
late
right
300s.
before it. I might be right before it. But I don't know.
There's good stuff there. Yeah, there's fun stuff there. I mean, look, it doesn't matter what Avengers run. You're not going to be Morrison and Mark Waid on JLA. Sorry.
Does Kingdom Come count as a JLA story?
Yeah, I was going to say, if Kingdom Come counts, that's the default winner, hands down. If that doesn't count, I'm going to move on to Justice. And if Justice doesn't count, then I'm going to go to Tower of Babel.
Justice counts.
I was going to say, how is it not just immediately Tower of Babel? And I mean, I would put Rock of Ages above Tower of Babel. I like Tower of Babel, but Rock of Ages is I mean, that is where Darkseid comes from. Right? That is an incredible arc. That whole scene. Oh God, maybe it is Rock of Ages. Rock of Ages is so fucking good. When they go into like Joker's mind, when Martian Manhunter goes into Joker's mind, that's one of the best scenes.
Oh, guys, get
Can
this.
It be the one
haven't read most of Morrison's JLA run. I'm going to get completely ostracized.
Don't worry, Brandon. I haven't either. It's not been collected in the best way. Even the trade paperbacks are all like
kind of scattered.
They're all different and
except that it just has the omnibus come out, or is it about to come out?
It's coming out soon. Yeah. This is the omnibus that collects just the Morrison issues.
And then Tower of Babel's Waid, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. But it's both Howard Porter? I think that the art is the same, right?
Is Howard? Yes, I think he's still on.
Yeah. Avengers is a little more iffy because most of the stuff that comes to mind wasn't big arcs like Kingdom Come and stuff. Like I've been sitting here going like I like a lot of the early King stuff. I like.
Oh, Avengers Forever would be a good.
That's my pick.
Yeah.
Is it really?
My pick. Yep.
Yeah, Avengers Forever is real good.
The Busick stuff was pretty good.
Yeah,
but that's that's a lot of issues. That's why I was like, I don't.
Yeah, he said so. Brock, it wasn't run; it was story.
Yeah, see, I haven't read a lot of the Avengers or the Justice League stuff until I read the New Avengers stuff, the stuff that Bendis did with Finch. I like that stuff. I just don't remember what it was called.
Breakout, like the first jail one, like where they get all the people out of jail and stuff. It's like the first Avengers, probably.
But yeah, for me, most of it is
Disassembled. Avengers Disassembled would be a good one with Bendis and Finch starting the whole House of M kind of thing. Was kind of cool.
Yeah, I'll be honest. That's probably my least favorite Avengers run. And I really not like the Avengers.
Because doesn't that undoes all the brown coat stuff, right?
Well, the last 20 years, the Avenger story, the big story arcs for Avengers, the last 20, 25 years have all been lead-ins or part of major events, whether it's Civil War is really an Avengers book. It's Cap and Iron Man, right? But it's not Avengers. All the new Avenger stuff leads into major events. So I feel like the more modern Avengers, it's a little bit harder. Justice League has traditionally stood on its own. It's only tied in with major events a few times, and not like major chapters of those.
Yeah,
events.
because Secret Invasion, Siege, Avengers versus X-Men, like all of those are all just like lead ups to each other, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, you can jump onto the other questions. I just wanted to make sure Craig's got in there because I thought it was a good brain challenge.
Yeah, that's a good one. So I choose the Justice League Antarctica annual. That's a good one. I like that one. Yeah, Justice League Antarctica.
Are you going to go with Justice League International now? Is one of the best Justice League runs?
But that's 60 issues. that doesn't count.
Although that, you know what my pick would be out of that would be that Despero story with the early Adam Hughes art.
Oh, yeah,
where JLI suddenly gets super serious, like
that one arc.
Yeah, it was so bizarre. It's like this comedy book, and then suddenly it's like this super dark.
I brought up Kui 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 the other day, and I was very proud of myself.
In what context?
It was
somebody was talking gibberish to him, and he was responding.
A reaction to the Kim Kardashian meme about all going to an island.
Oh, okay.
And I posted the Justice League International cover. I think it's Adam Hughes, right?
With them on the
Booster Gold and Fire's like leaning over, like serving them drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I just want to go to an island. Kui. That's good stuff, man.
Nerds.
Yes, the 474 episodes of us being nerds. Did you just figure that out? So we have a permanent Q&A thread on the Patreon group, which I'm just going to start at the top, and every week I'm going to go down. So people, make sure you get your questions on here so we can get this. First one's from Tony. He says, not comic related, but it is in our wheelhouse. He said, when are we going to do this Gundam marathon? I've got nearly every series on Blu-ray, so you got one person ready to go. I said this a little while ago. I am catching up on some of my older shows. I am going to do a massive, like, decade-long watch of every Gundam I possibly can in chronological in release order. So soon, I'm wrapping up my current decade-long project of Stargate. I'm on the tail end, Charlie. I'm at the tail end. It takes me forever to get through this stuff, so give me a little bit of time. I'm getting there.
They're giving you decades at this point. I think that
it is literally like I can get like a 10-year project here because it just takes me forever to get through this stuff.
So Brody will be drinking by the time you're done with Gundam.
I've watched some early and some like 2000s Gundam. I have big gaps in my Gundam watch, and I'm like, that's it. Gonna power through chronological order. Let's do it. So,
how many episodes is that?
I want to join you for that. Because I've seen a lot of Gundam, but I've definitely not seen it all, and I've not seen it in chronological order.
I mean, we're not like it's not like
Charlie's pondering starting a new podcast.
Gundam isn't like One Piece where it's like 900 episodes of one show. It's dozens of 50 episode, 60 episode series, 30 episode series. But at this point, dozens. It's 1,000 episodes. It's easy.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia page and it looks terrifying.
It is. So some of the series are completely alternate worlds that have no thread back to like the original stuff. But then one of the things I really like about the Gundam world is like they have series that are all from like one side's perspective, and then they have other series from the other side sort of perspectives. Like it's sort of this big epic war, the main series, with sort of like key characters and stuff, but it does a very good job of exploring different things in a lot of the different, especially shorter series.
And if you know a lot about the Gundam model kits that people build, they now have shows based around people building Gundam model kits. That's in my list to get to eventually. So I'll be watching like the Mobile Suit Gundam builder or Kai or whatever it's called. I can't remember what the newer show is called, but yeah, I'm going in, man. It's gonna take me forever. They released more Gundam. I mean, they released them faster than I'll be able to watch them. I'll never be caught up. Gundam will be around forever. But yes, I am committed to this Gundam project. I need some Gundam. Michael says this is perfect timing too, because we're talking about Justice League. He says, I love the Justice League, but I grew tired of comics during New 52. But I've been hearing about Metal, Rebirth, and Justice League Dark has piqued my interest again. What are the top 3 or 4 series that I could buy in Comixology to get caught up? Justice League Dark falls perfectly into that list. You can buy both volumes of Justice League Dark, and they're completely their own thing. You don't have to read anything else. The current Justice League Dark book is so good too. Yep. Ram V has been doing the current series, and Justice League Dark's fantastic. But Justice League in Rebirth past that original run, which was kind of, it's okay, but you could skip it entirely. It's Metal, Justice League No Justice, the 2018 Justice League series, and then into Dark Knight's Death Metal. That is a full run because that's all Scott Snyder. So that would be your list if you want to do Metal, No Justice, Justice League, Death Metal, just straight through.
I would also tell him to check out Darkseid War, even though it's not part of that continuity, just as a fun Justice League book.
Yeah, the early New 52 Justice League, John's was really going off and doing his own thing. The back half of the New 52 Justice League, John's is like, fuck New 52. This is just going to be the regular Justice League as much as I can possibly make it. And it's really good. I love all the stuff with Luthor.
I always forget that Forever Evil was like John's. I forgot that. Yeah. I actually really liked that little mini series.
Forever Evil was a fun book. Yeah. I like Forever Evil quite a bit. They bring back Bizarro in there.
I like Forever Evil, but I think I like the aftermath of Forever Evil more. Like, I like the way that it adjusted things with Lex Luthor and Captain Cold and like that stuff a lot.
Grayson. Don't forget about Grayson.
Oh, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a great run. So I would definitely recommend those. Hunter, we answered your question. You asked about the shared continuity and the no more shared continuity DC. So hopefully we got a good question, good answer there. And again, we'll just see. We're not going to know in March, but give it 6 months, a year past Metal and past Future State, and we'll see. Again, I just can't believe that DC would do this. It doesn't make any sense. So we'll see what happens.
That's not going down the list. You're reading a bunch of it.
Well, no, a Goldberg kick to the face is the name of the page.
A Goldberg kick to the face.
So I was trying to see if there was a name attached to this, but no, just a Goldberg kick to the face.
That's might be my favorite handle of any of these questioners so far.
Is DC jumping the shark with the Tales from the Dark Multiverse Death Metal? I mean, that term is so overly used, but it just literally feels like they've run out of ideas for the one shots. I like those Tales books because they take
Tales of the Multiverse stuff.
Yeah,
they take awesome.
Yeah, so what they did in Death Metal is they basically said, look, there's all these worlds that are like powered by multiverse crisis energy, and they just sort of relive them over and over and over again. So to me, I like that they're like, oh, well, let's go explore this world where like Judas Contract was like the big thing, right? That was from the original run. Now the new run is just these big major events. And it's their take of like a what if, like a dark what if.
Yeah,
neat.
Metal did a great job setting up the dark multiverse, right? The flipping over of the map. And in Death Metal, what it is it's explaining that all of these worlds, these dark versions of these worlds, are kind of like the things that are left on the cutting room floor, right? Or that are edited out, right? It's like it's the like, what if you went in the other direction? Like, what if, this person, what if Superman, died, right? He stayed dead. He didn't come back. What if, like you said, Judas Contract? What if, I mean, that one was brutal. Like, Tara just goes like crazy. But yeah, it's definitely stuff that they're just entertaining and to see, and just like it's explained in death metal where it's like the energy from those is fueling everything that's going on.
Yeah, you can. They're very ignorable if you don't want to read them. They're just like a little weird what if. But yeah, they're a fun look at the big events from the past and kind of like how the Dark Multiverse, kind of fuck them up and screw with them and where do they go from there? So,
they just started making them recently again, right? Because they came out with Metal came out. Now they're doing another round of them now.
Yeah.
They did a Hush one or something. That was the most recent one.
Yeah. So they sort of take those big events. And
I do get Goldberg's point though. On it's kind of like, did I see the listing for like Identity Crisis, Dark Multiverse?
There's an Infinite Crisis on Identity Crisis.
Infinite, and then there was a Crisis on Infinite Earths. Also, I think
that one's coming out next month. I think I'm looking at the list right now.
New ones. The original were Nightfall, Death of Superman, Blackest Night, Infinite Crisis, and Judas Contract. The second batch is Hush, Flashpoint, War of the Gods, Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Death Metal. So there's going to be
a dark death metal.
Death metal. Yeah. And that comes out the week prior to that comes out in between issues 6 and 7. That comes out the week prior to Death Metal 7. So that might actually be more important to the main story.
So after that one, we would get Past State, and then a very solid, solid DC continuity going forward. Is that what you're saying?
But yeah, I mean, they're mostly ignorable if you don't want to read them. But I think they're fun. Final question. I know was going to have this on the topic list, but because I got a question of it, I figured I'd read it here. This is from Verum Libertas. He says, so the X-Men Legends series are the 90s back. They announced today they are going to have a new X-Men comic called X-Men Legends, in which classic X-Men creators are going to come back to do new stories, finishing off plots that they have abandoned or left or never wrapped up or wanted to kind of tweak around a little bit. And I think maybe these are gonna count, right? They're going to be in continuity stories. The first story is Fabian Nicieza and Brett Booth is coming over from DC to go work at Marvel. And he is going to tell the first arc in X-Men Legends. Fabian Nicieza finally is going to reveal the true origin of the third Summers brother. Is it Adam X? Is it Gambit? Is it just going to be Vulcan, like Ed Brubaker wrote? Maybe. We'll find out. Chris Claremont, Louis Simonson, Larry Hama, Peter David, they're also going to be doing upcoming arcs. So there you go. Bryce, if you're listening,
he's already signed up for all of them. Like,
if you want to know who the third I will not sign you up, Bryce, unless you listen to this podcast and tell and reply.
You're just speaking into the void right now. Any sentence that starts with Bryce, comma, you might as well just go outside and yell it to the sky.
The funny part is Ryan's going to forget that it's just going to auto add him because he's on an X-Men book.
I'll tag him on Twitter, and when he checks Twitter in September, he'll be like, "Wait, what's this book?"
Yeah.
So I don't know that. I don't to answer Verum's question. I don't think this is specifically going to be 90s because Claremont obviously was 70s, 80s. Louis Simonson was 80s, 90s. Larry Hama, he would do Wolverine, right? That was 80s. Peter David write on X-Men. Oh, did he write X?
He wrote. Didn't he write Excalibur?
Or was he X Factor?
Or X Factor. Sorry, X Factor. Yeah. That's what it was. Yeah. So Peter David will probably go back to do his X Factor stuff. Yeah. Who did Excalibur when that launched? was Alan Davis and someone. I don't remember.
Oh, you mean that very first series back in the 80s?
Yeah, the early Excalibur stuff. I don't remember who wrote those. What was it? Claremont, was it? Did he write that too?
It says Chris Claremont and Alan Davis.
Yeah.
That first launch. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he did do that early stuff. Yeah, Peter David would be X Factor. So if you're an X-Men fan, you're gonna get more X-Men comics. There you go. Okay. That's it. That's all I got.
Ten of Swords isn't affecting it?
Never heard of it.
Okay.
X of Swords? No idea. No, it's its own thing. Although pretty soon they'll start having they'll be like, oh, we got to go clean up X of Swords, and we have to go back in and redo our own continuity.
They'll make sure to call it Ten of Swords at that point.
Yeah. They'll have an X-Men Legends issue right before the end of X-Men Ten of Swords. It's going to redo Ten of Swords, just like Death Metal.
This X-Men Legends book completely negates all of Hickman's X-Men.
They can have one that actually explains what's going on in the Hickman run. And be like, oh yeah, remember Moira?
Oh, it's just going to be that. It's going to be that Moira series they were supposed to. It's just going to get shoved in X-Men Legends.
Plot in this book.
When's that starting, Ryan? Did you sign me up for that?
That
Moira? No, the Moira series.
Moira, I already subbed, man. I pulled you the Peach Mocha variant cover and getting you ready. Yeah, getting 2037 when that Moira series launches.
Okay, let's make a bet right now. You and I make a bet right now. What happens first?
Here we go.
The next San Diego Comic-Con or the launch of the Moira #1?
You saw they pushed back C2B2 and Emerald City?
Yeah, to December. Yeah.
Yeah. Try 2022, guys.
That's two Emerald Cities. God.
Okay, which one, Ryan? San Diego or Moira #1?
That's a good question.
Bet.
We will have. I'm confident that we will have a traditional Comic-Con in 2022. I don't think we're going to have one next year. I would think summer 2022. So, does that Moira series launch in the next 18 months?
It's a gentleman's bet. There's no money involved. This shouldn't take this long.
This is a good question, though. This is a good question. I'm gonna go with Comic-Con.
I guess I have to go with Moira then to make a bet.
What do you think? What do you really think?
Oh, this is kind of a coin flip for me because what if like a week after we record this, they announce that Moira? I mean, what if it's all cooked and baked and ready to roll and they just haven't announced it yet?
I don't believe that for a second.
Oh, I don't either. I'm just trying to throw out any kind of thing to make this a bet.
It'll be a digital first before you know it.
We know Comic-Con will be summer 2022.
Yes. Okay, I'll take Moira in 2021.
Okay. It could. I don't think so, though, but it could. But I don't think it will. Okay. Yeah,
this is not an epic like our Doomsday Clock bet. This is just a little gentleman's wager. Yeah.
I gotta remember this though. I gotta remember this if it gets announced. Okay.
See, this is me just half expecting what the Moira book's going to be is like the first panel, Moira dies, resetting the timeline again. Just
every issue is her. She dies and resets the timeline.
Brandon, did you end up getting like tickets for like the LA con that they ended up canceling or anything?
No, I did not.
Did you even bother try?
You know what's funny? I've actually never been to an actual convention before in my entire life of being a comic book fan. I've never actually made my way. Funny enough, the only type of convention I've ever been to, and some of you actually, were probably more familiar with this because I was such a really little kid. I went to like an X-Files convention in San Francisco, like in 1997. Yeah. Like I don't even know where it was. I was dragged along by my older brother, and that was like the only con experience I have, which is so random.
Well, July 2022, you're coming with us to San Diego.
Oh, wait a minute, Ryan. Does that mean Ryan is on the record? You are attending the next San Diego.
Oh, if it's that far out, yeah. Sure.
Okay, Toby, you heard it.
You're getting all of us to go. Business trip.
It's not. I don't have to put any effort to get Toby and Kevin to go. So
no, but I mean, Toby has now heard you say this.
He's fucked.
Brandon, you would love
Oh,
Comic-Con.
dude.
It's
It's one of those things I've always like been trying to go to. Obviously, the past couple of years I've been on tour and like kind of busy, but like it's one of the things on the bucket list that I would love to go.
But Brandon, definitely worth your effort is WonderCon because it's a shorter trip and much easier to get into, and it's still a really great convention.
Totally, yeah. The thing with Comic-Con that always did kind of like push me away was like the lack of. I mean, since it is such like a pop culture con at this point, WonderCon definitely is more attractive just because it is focused more on the comics from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Well, at Comic-Con, things happen. All right.
yeah. I mean, I'm down for Comic-Con for the whole package, the experience, the whole thing. I'm in.
You get invited by Ryan to go to the Eisners, and just to know that you have to seat in the bleacher seats, even though you promised VIP package.
yeah.
Ryan complains to no end on Twitter till someone comes and talks to him.
the
ticket.
But Toby, don't you remember that the ultimate punchline of that was me loading up that plate off the buffet line before realizing we weren't allowed to eat that food, and then just setting it down and walking away.
You should have taken it with you. That's what I would have done. I'm like, I leave. Thank you for the food.
Oh, hearing everyone's Comic-Con stories, I'm hanging out with Toby for sure. He seems like he's the one that really knows how to have the best time.
Well, with Comic-Con too, it is. I mean, I haven't been to most of them, but just from everything I've heard from people, it's not like it was like 10, 12 years ago where it was just media, everything else. Comic books really are still the focus now. I mean, there's obviously toy companies, but it's not like the Hall H line is for Twilight anymore. Like that's not
for sure
what Comic-Con is. It has changed back a little bit. But yeah, I mean, WonderCon still seems like the more legit comic book event.
Definitely.
In New York Comic Con.
You get to wake up and Ryan screams at you going, dude, I think Scott Snyder just texted me. He's going to have me do his panel in like 4 hours.
My favorite part of Toby is him being like, I got to get up at 5 a.m. to go wait in a line for He-Man figures. And then his alarm goes off for 6.5 hours. And I've taken a shower. I've had breakfast with Kevin. I come back up. His alarm's still going off, and I'm just like, "Well, Toby, I think you missed your alarm."
And Toby, Ryan can certainly read that text from Snyder very clearly since the drapes are wide open in the room all night.
What I'm saying is, get your own hotel room. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Get your own.
No, it's more fun altogether.
Okay, It's fun for one person, the person that can pass out and sleep through an alarm for 12 hours. It's fun for that person. It's not fun for the normal person. So,
all right, summer 2020, summer 2022.
Yeah,
2022.
It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be
July 2022. Unless anything weird happens, we'll make a plan. We'll make a plan. All right, we are going to wrap up, and through the magic of editing, I'm actually going to record this afterwards because I get to get all my notes back together. But
can I say that Johns is on my to watch shit list at this point, next to Bruce Timm, as the other guy that's trying to get Barbara to hook up with someone else that she's not supposed to. About Barbara and Bruce, which is really, really like icky to me. But Johns is not as icky, so but still weird.
It was a little weird.
Yeah.
The Killing Joke, the movie one was. Really
that's okay. Tell me that. So that's when I haven't seen it, but that's the animated movie where some weird subplot of Bruce and Barbara hooking up.
Not the only time Bruce Timm has been trying to put the two together. You watch Batman Forever. Is it Batman Forever? No, Batman Beyond. Sorry, Batman Beyond. Very different. Yeah. They're also they hint at Bruce and Barbara being a thing.
Yeah.
What's the age difference? Like in continuity, supposed to be like 10 years?
No, dude, it's weird. She seems like young, and he doesn't. Leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that. It's a little.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of age.
If you put the age a little too far down on your Tinder profile, that's probably where it's at.
Wow.
I have to. The other thing, though, the tease at the end of Three Jokers is almost like a Son of a Demon tease. It's like I feel like that's something that's going to come back at one point.
Well, yeah, if they do a Three Jokers follow-up, they can be the Joker kid, right?
Like, I would not be surprised if this is going to be like hanging out for the next 20 years, and some next Jeff Johns, some next Snyder is going to pick this little nugget up and run with it.
Yeah. I did think the setting of Alaska was a little cheesy for that. The parent or the Joker's wife and kid, like that's where they sent them to Alaska. You know what I mean? I thought it was like it could
far away.
It's far away, but it could have been somewhere else. I feel like Alaska was so like extreme where I was like, oh God, Alaska, they're in the snow. This is so gnarly. I thought that was a little funny.
Isn't that where like Walter White went to go hide and then
Yeah, because you get it all with your Canada to get up there. Yeah,
I also
you take sled dogs to
I thought it was
places.
funny in the flashback of the Three Jokers, like how helpful the Gotham cops were when she was like, "Oh, my wife, my husband's kind of sketch. I think I should move away." Like, "Oh, don't worry, we pulled some money together. We got you." It's like, aren't Gotham cops like notoriously just dickheads? They helped her out this one time, I guess.
The one nice cop, cop in Gotham.
They only had enough money to send her to Alaska. That's all they could afford.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see if we get that sequel. We'll see if they announce that soon. Maybe part of the post.
We got to wait till February to figure out because DC's,
Yeah, maybe part of the upcoming story arcs or the upcoming series of stories post.
2022
Future State
with Brandon.
I love that.
I'm putting it down on the calendar.
Why do I feel like video cameras are going to be involved in this one?
No cameras. Just fun.
All right. Well, Brandon, once again,
dude, thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure
being on. We'll get you back on here someday soon. Why don't you tell all our wonderful, wonderful listeners where they can find more of your work?
All right. Twitter, just at Brandon Freed, and for all the band stuff, at the MBHD on Instagram and Twitter. Hell yeah.
There you go. And you guys had a new album, right?
Yeah, new album came out last month, Chip Chrome and the Monotones. Go stream it so I can buy more comics.
I approve. All right, and we're going to do all the rest of our plugs here in just 1 second, but we're going to let everyone go. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week. Thank you for once again listening to the Comic Conspiracy Podcast. My name is Ryan Higgins. That's all those fellows over there that do their thing. We have to thank some wonderful Patreon backers, though, for this episode. Joe Duff, Jesse Peterson over at the Comic Book Matters podcast, Jimmy Rivera at the Social Forum podcast, Andrew Nelson Mendez at Recovery of an Anime Junkie podcast, Craig Anderson, our good friend Craig over at craigpanderson.com, and Mario Miranda. He has a new YouTube channel called The Comic Lounge, dedicated to talking about comic books and interviewing creators. So go over to YouTube and check out The Comic Lounge. We also have all our wonderful sidekick backer level backers on Patreon. It's patreon.com/comic conspiracy. As little as $1 a month. You could be on our Patreon and answer some, give us some questions to ask. Give us some questions to ask. Give us some questions to answer. You're asking them, we're answering them. Patrick Hunter, Tim Bradshaw, Martin Aguilar, Jeffrey Hirschman. Wait, do I normally say all these names? 00 Evans, John Seep, Timothy O'Brien, Josh Pickett, Malvi, Christopher Haith, Tim Martin, Ames Foster, Mason Barber, Robert Lane, Joseph Rodriguez, Bryce Larson. Quotes. Hopefully you got one or two last week. Joe Cachadorian over at Identity Stunt, PJ Ryder, Zach Johnson, Jack Ildefonso, Chris Lockhart, Anirban Banerjee, Dominic Arisman, Chris Bunch, Wally Ansari, David Baroldi, Miles Gakula, Tyler Willits, Tim from Virginia Beach, Michael Morgan, Brian Morawski, Paula Schultz, Chris Palaki, Don Kilson, Father Dante, Mark Long, Steven Sepfia, Ivan Leskanik, Andrew Cuscieri, Alex McHale, Christopher Noyes, Edgar Morano, and Red Hat Man himself, David Safar. Thank you all very much for your support of the Comic Conspiracy Podcast. If you go to geekbox.net, comicconspiracypodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, you can find all our previous episodes. Always helps to rate and review on Apple Podcasts if you can. Again, patreon.com/comicsconspiracies, where you can go to kick us a couple bucks for hosting this podcast. Always helpful. If you would like to purchase some comic books from us, you can do that at comicsconspiracy.biz. And our good guy Brock does all the shipping, and he'll make sure that package is perfect. The UPS and USPS will not destroy it when it's delivering it. Go to conspiratedbrock.com. That's Brock's blog, video posts, and unboxing videos. You can go watch him over there do his stuff. Charlie has the Doctor Who podcast, Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension. And Kevin has weekly interview series called Between the Panels at fanbasepress.com. Go read all their, read his work, go watch their videos. And don't forget to go to leannehill.com. That's my wife, Leanne. That's her artwork is on there, as well as at etsy.com/shop/LeanneHillArt. If you're on Twitter, you can follow us. Ryan Higgins Ryan, that's myself. Brock is Brock Sager. Toby is Toby XI. Charlie is Insanity and Chaos. Kevin is that Kevin Sharp. The store is Comics Con Store. And please remember to listen to the Geek Box, which I'm on every week, as well as Manga Machinations, our good friends over there. Thank you all very much. We'll catch you next week.